Hello,
Hello,
Teacher Moureen. How are you doing?
pretty good. Thanks for asking. Teacher Moureen. Did I pronounce it
Yes,
correctly?
Maureen. Yeah,
Can,
that's correct.
can you please pronounce it again, teacher?
Maureen.
Moureen.
Maureen.
Moureen.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
cool.
that's
Nice to
correct.
meet you.
Very nice to meet you. How can
Pretty.
I pronounce your name? Maysam, right?
Yes, May Sam.
Maysam.
Yes, May Sam.
Maysam.
Exactly. Exactly.
Very nice to meet you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So, without losing any time, let's just dive into the questions then.
Sure.
Sure. Okay, Teacher
Yeah,
Maureen. Speaking of motivation, how can we
okay.
motivate language learners?
I think language learners should be motivated by themselves because there is something about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation,
Mhm.
and I think if we try to motivate them, they can try to learn, but they can only go up to a certain level.
Mhm.
But if the motivation comes from within them, from the pain points they're having, for example, somebody's trying to learn maybe to get a promotion at their job, then they can use that as fuel. But if we try to motivate them or force them, for example, for kids, if they are forced, they don't learn.
Mhm.
So I think people should be motivated by
By
themselves.
themselves.
The only thing we can do is to maybe create engaging materials for them. That's all we can do.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. Very nice. And okay, speaking of kids, what is the difference between kids and adults? Let's say young learners and adults. What is the difference generally speaking?
The difference between kids learning or the, I don't
In
know.
terms of,
Could you explain this question?
class management, how can I say, preparing of the material, giving the, certain kind of homework, because we are facing with two different distinctive people, right? Kid psychology, adult psychology. As you know, kids are fast learners, adults are goal oriented, right? So I am sure that you have a lot of experience about this. What is the difference, in terms of teaching as well as dealing with these, distinctive group of learners?
I think the difference is that kids are more ready to participate in an activity that you throw to them. If you say, let's do this, they quickly want to try it. There is nothing like, yeah, I'm going to look stupid if I try to do that. But then for adults, even if you say, oh, let's do some karaoke, they're like, no, 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 my voice is not very good. If you said, speak about this topic, no, I'm not very fluent. I'm going to make so many mistakes. So the difference between the kids and adults is the confidence. Kids are not shy, they're ready to try anything, whereas adults, they're a little bit shy. I
Exactly.
will say we are a little bit shy because it's the same thing that happens when I'm trying to speak Turkish
Really?
or when I was beginning to learn Turkish.
Mm-hmm.
That was the biggest problem.
Mm-hmm. So apparently you live in Izmir, right?
Yes.
I see. For how long have you been here in Turkey?
Um, it's coming to 10 years.
10
It's
years?
coming to 10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Okay. Yes, what you said is absolutely correct. It is the matter of confidence. Uh, and the next question is, what are the probable problems of students while they are studying and learning?
I think generally they quickly want to see results.
Mhm.
This is the biggest problem, again, with adults, not kids,
Yeah.
because I've worked with kids. They never ask the question, when am I going to be fluent? They never. But adults, they quickly want to know, give me a date. When is this going to happen?
Exactly.
It's a journey. Like any journey, you have to enjoy the journey. If you're going on a holiday, I think from the time you get from your house until you get to whichever place you're going to, or a hotel or another country, the journey too must be interesting. You take pictures and everything. You enjoy every step of the way. But if you wait to have fun or relax when you get to the hotel, it may not be possible.
Exactly.
And you may not get to the hotel.
Definitely, definitely correct.
Yeah. So the biggest problem is adults want to quickly get to see results, and they quickly want to know, when am I seeing the results?
Mhm.
When? Is it in a month? In a week? Tell me when.
In an hour, actually, we can do that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely
I need
correct.
to ask you a question before we proceed. Your English is very good. Your accent is good. How did you learn English?
You're asking from me?
Yes.
Really? Thank you very much.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I have a knack for English. I do. How can I say? I don't want to praise myself. I am not that kind of person. But of course, I do pay attention to pronunciation as well as accent a little bit. But hugely, I focus on pronunciation. You know, I literally check every single word. You cannot believe it. I even check the correct pronunciation of the word book, for example. I
That's
always
good.
want to be, I mean, so sure about it. Of course, I am not, perfect, but I am trying to be, because we are teachers. We are the guidance. We are guiding people. So I think we need to we need to speak in a way that uh, we can enlighten people. But yeah,
Yes.
thanks for this praise. Thank you very much. And where are you from, actually? I forgot to ask.
I'm from Uganda.
Uganda?
Yes, Uganda.
Okay, sure. The next question is, what sort of material would you recommend them to use? For example, books, apps, websites, other or different forms of platforms, uh, let's say.
I wouldn't recommend one website or one simple book or one application. I believe if you have a variety of materials, then it can help you progress a little bit faster, because you're going to get bored at some point. So if you're only following, let's say, one application, let's say Duolingo, you're always on Duolingo. At a certain point, you're going to get bored or frustrated. But if, for example, you watch movies and maybe try to read, listen to music, try to speak to other people, you're going to pick up different skills, let's say listening, reading, writing, speaking, because you cannot get everything from one place.
Mhm.
I don't think, even if it's like, for example, if somebody is going to a school, I don't think you can get 100% from a school. A school is just going to give you, or a teacher, private, even if it's a private teacher, you're going to just get, let's say, 60% or 70%, and that's too much.
Yeah,
So I don't believe anybody should focus on one spot
I
or
see.
one sort of material.
Mhm. Yeah, you're definitely correct. But actually, this question is a very cliche question of students, because they keep asking what sort of material would you recommend. That is why I put it into this interview, and I keep asking from different teachers to get some insights and opinion about this. But of
Okay.
course, it is not something definite that we have to just say, okay, you definitely need to go this way. That is it. No, there isn't such
Yes.
thing actually in learning, or let's say practicing. Exactly. And the next question, as usual, very cliche. I love cliche questions.
Okay.
Grammar or vocabulary? Which one
Ah,
is much more important, or let's say outweighs the other one, and why? Plus, how can learners improve their grammar and vocabulary? I mean, in terms of, expanding vocabulary, let's say.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a very long
very long
question.
question. Yeah. First, grammar and vocabulary. Which one is important and why? And then I will ask the
Okay.
other one. Yes.
All right. This depends on what's your level. Because, for example, if you're a beginner, and I believe we should begin learning with collecting as much vocabulary as possible. Because when we are kids, we don't begin learning our mother tongue by learning the rules. No, your mom says a cup, all bardak, tea, food, thank you, goodbye, how are you? This is how we begin. So I believe we should begin with vocabulary. So if somebody is in the beginner's level, they should do lots of reading, lots of listening, because that's how we learn our mother tongue. And then you begin speaking without the grammar. I think in Turkish they generally say tarzanca. So you begin with the tarzanca.
Yes, yes, exactly.
And just try to communicate, just try to communicate. And then when you get to the intermediate level, then maybe you can dive into the grammar so that you speak correctly, so
Yes.
that you maybe be able to construct longer sentences, be able to express exactly what you mean. But before, you just need the vocabulary. Because
Perfect.
if your grammar is very good, for example, some students take YDS,
Yes.
and they cannot even speak about what they did yesterday, but their grammar is very good. Grammar and vocabulary is very good, but they can't even say, oh yeah, yesterday I did this, I did that, and I felt this way, I was scared, I was happy, I was excited. They can't, but they have all the grammar. Their grammar is generally better than mine, but they cannot express themselves.
Nice.
And I think a language is meant to communicate.
Definitely correct. Yes, exactly, and totally correct. Vocabulary, what I believe is really important. And okay, how can learners again improve their grammar and vocabulary? Do you recommend them again books, or
Yeah.
so which books, for example, if you may
Books,
give some names?
names, I wouldn't give names, but I would say, for example, if you love fitness, then read blogs, because blogs generally use speaking language. They use the speaking tone. They write as if they're speaking. So I would recommend read as many blogs as possible, because first of all, they're very short. So you can just sit and read. If you get bored or you don't understand much, you can stop reading, find something else. But if you go out and buy a book, let's say a book is 50 tele, you read 2 pages and you don't continue. And most of the books in DNR are really expensive.
Yeah.
Something like 80, 100 and something like that. So if you've spent 100 tele, 50 tele, and read 2 pages and find it difficult, then you have to throw it away and buy another book. It means it's going to be more expensive, and it will demotivate you because you've spent money and time on it. But if you read a blog, if you get bored, you just close the page and open another one. So for vocabulary, people should find their areas of interest and read around them. For example, one of my students came to class last time. She's around 12. And she said, teacher, I have to pull out my tooth. It's shaking. And I'm very frustrated about this. Why do humans have to pull out teeth? And animals, because she has a cat, animals don't have to pull out their teeth. My cat, she doesn't brush her teeth. They don't have to go to the doctor. Why do we have to do this? I was like, I don't know. So we Googled and we found a very good blog and we read. And she was very curious. Okay, what happens next? What? So that curiosity, I'm sure she can learn through that. But if I find something she's not interested in and say, okay, just get this and read, she will be waiting for the class.
Excellent.
And grammar.
I like that.
In grammar, how can you learn grammar? Yeah, you gotta get a textbook.
Yeah.
textbooks,
Definitely correct.
and lots of exercises.
Yes, exactly. Exercises, yes, practicing. And
Oh, 1 minute. The exercises shouldn't be fill in the gaps. I don't believe in filling the gaps because filling the gaps doesn't give you an opportunity to construct your own sentence. You just have to choose the right word and fill it in. You don't know what happened in the other words. Maybe the sentence has 6 words. You only filled in. So you're not challenging your brain enough, I think.
yes, definitely, definitely correct. Oh my God. And uh, the
What is
next,
it? Talk to me. What
because
is it?
we're talking about language, language is very, very complicated, It is very deep.
Yeah.
We cannot just solve it
Yes.
by a couple of questions. It is impossible. Uh,
Yes, definitely.
and okay, how did you personally learn English? Would you please talk about it a bit?
How did we learn English in my country? Our official language is English. And unfortunately, when we begin going to school, it's compulsory for us to use English language. Even if you're out playing with your friends, you have to, if, for example, you need your friend to throw a ball to you, you cannot use the local language. If you do, you're given a punishment.
Really?
So, for fear of punishment, we had to speak English, and that's how we learned.
Interesting.
That's
Interesting.
how we learned.
I didn't know that.
Very strange. Very
Very,
strange.
yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So as you said, so the country's official language is English. Did I hear it correctly?
Yes, 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 that's
Mm-hmm,
correct.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. And is it possible to learn multiple languages simultaneously? Would you recommend that, by the way? Apparently, of course, because you're able to speak Turkish, and so most probably your answer would be yes. But okay, we want to hear from you.
Um, what's the question? My mind
The
is now
question
confused. Is it possible to learn multiple languages at
at
the
the same
same
time.
time?
Yes, exactly. Is it possible?
I think
Yes
this
or no? And finally, after that, would you recommend that? Some people don't recommend that, for example. Okay, let's hear what you got.
um yes and no. Why would I recommend it? I think for kids, not even for kids, both kids and adults, if you're learning two languages at the same time, I think at some point of time you're going to confuse the two languages. But after some time, the progress will be very, very slow. But after some time, you'll begin to differentiate between the two languages, and something beautiful will come out of it.
Mm,
So would I recommend it? Yes, because right now the more languages you can speak, the more opportunities. So if I had maybe an opportunity to learn Russian and let's say Chinese at the same time, I would take on the challenge and see where we can get to with the two languages.
mhm.
Because
I
I
see.
don't see the downside of it. Do you see any downside of it?
Of course, it is challenging. The downside is, the
Very.
challenge. Uh, Yeah, but of course, for me, I would say it is the matter of preference and choice, and necessity. Okay, for example, let's say I
Yeah.
love language, but if I will not use, for example, let's say Chinese, so sorry for my language, what the hell am I going to learn? Why? Why should I learn Chinese just to satisfy my interest? I don't think so. Actually, because we are adults, as I said before, adults are goal oriented, right? So we want
Yeah, that's
things
true.
to be done, as you said, of course, fast. We don't have time to waste, or maybe
Yeah.
because of different reasons. But generally speaking, we won't. try to learn something if we don't need it. This is my opinion. This is my own opinion.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
true.
If I will use Chinese, for example, so I have to learn it because this is that is necessity, right?
It
Yeah,
goes back to necessity. Is this necessary or not? It goes back to our brains. We are figuring out, is it necessary for my survival? Yes or no? No? Okay, it's not important.
yeah, that is it. Easy peasy.
Basically that.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
I agree with you.
uh-huh. And of course, but you said you have been living in Turkey for 10 years. I mean, what was your challenge? Could you please talk about your challenge and learning a new language? How did you do that as a
It
second
was very
second
challenging.
tongue? Yeah,
It was very, very challenging and very frustrating because this is stupid, but I thought all white people spoke English.
really.
And when I came to Turkey, I was, of course, in my country, all the movies that we see are in English. So in my naive brain, I just knew everybody in the world spoke English. Everybody. Traveling is good. I got here and I remember I tried to go to the bank and I thought somebody must speak English. It's the bank. Nobody could speak English. I went out of the bank and I I went to the street. I saw a black person. I was like, oh, finally, a black person. They couldn't speak English. They were from a French-speaking
Oh my
country.
God.
So yeah, it was difficult. It was a lot of, actually, besides that, I tried to, because I didn't come with a laptop, I tried to log into my Skype. I couldn't because the keyboard was different.
Oh my
Like,
God.
leave alone the language. I needed to speak to my parents. The keyboard was different.
I see.
Yeah, it was frustrating and challenging.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But you could do that, right? Finally,
Yeah.
eventually.
Finally.
Finally.
Finally. Now I enjoy the country a lot
You
more.
enjoy the country, of course. Cool. Uh,
Yes.
okay. The next question is, how can learners improve their speaking abilities? Very cliche. We are fed up with this question. Yeah.
What about you answer this question? Because your speaking is good.
My speaking is
How
good?
did you improve your speaking? Yes. Have you been abroad?
No, unfortunately, no. Actually, officially, I'm from Iran.
You,
I'm
I think
Iranian,
you're the
but I
best
live in
person to answer this.
no problem. But I live in Istanbul, Turkey, and we started to learn English when we were like early teenage, let's say period. I was like 11, 12 years old, something like that. We started the
Okay.
teenage period, and from that time on, we have been working on English. I am still learning, although we went to university, we studied literature, English language and literature. We actually we have been teaching English for a couple of years. It has been like 10 years or more, but still I am
Oh,
learning.
that's good.
I always say you need to submerge yourself in that language. That is what you do, for example, what you did actually in Turkey, because you had to do it so that you submerged yourself in Turkish, and eventually you could you could actually pull it off. You could successfully do it. Yeah. And this is maybe, yeah, I can say this. That's, I mean,
How did you
years and years.
submerge yourself?
Sorry?
How did you do this? How did you do this? Because you've never been abroad.
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you can speak like you've lived in a country where the language is spoken.
Really?
How
Thank you
did you
very
do this?
Thank you very
In the beginning, how difficult was it? What challenges did you
Of
have?
course.
How did you overcome these challenges?
Definitely. Maybe we were lucky because our teachers were good, maybe, most probably, of course. But honestly speaking, I would say it is more of a self-taught, or let's say self-studied. You know, I focus on listening a lot. This is my technique. I would say if you want to have a good speaking in any kind of language, you definitely need to listen, because when we were infant, or let's say babies, the only thing that we did, and we were so successful, was listening, right? We
Listening.
used to listen a
Yes.
lot, and after 2 years, or maybe approximately 2 years, we started to speak. So the first process is listening then, because we
Yes.
used to listen to our surroundings and people and parents, obviously, and step by step we started to articulate the words. That is my technique. I listen a lot. I am still listening to
Me
podcasts,
too.
especially YouTube.
Yeah, me too. Podcasts,
Yeah,
YouTube. I'm always on YouTube.
exactly. Yeah, this is a very vast ocean. Uh, yeah. Of course, maybe there are some other reasons I don't have the presence of mind at the moment, but what I can say is I focused on my listening more than other stuff, of course.
Yes.
But yeah. Okay, so what is your answer about this question?
My answer would be, I think if you're trying to learn a language, just get comfortable with making mistakes. Because if you want to begin walking, you don't begin by taking off.
Exactly.
You begin by
Exactly.
taking the first step, fall down, maybe scrape your knee, get up, try again. And then later on, you can walk, maybe, but slowly, staggering, but you can get to a place. And then later on, you can speak very well in terms of learning a language. So students should get comfortable with maybe answering a question with just one word, all 2 words. And then later on, those 2 words will turn into 3, 5, and then 20 words in a sentence. And then they'll tell stories. And like you said, if they